What is up, everyone? Welcome back to episode 20 of Smoke and Meteoras, the podcast where we talk about the moments that matter and the struggles on the rise. This week, I am joined by none other than Mathias. Thank you so much for joining this week. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
All right. So I start every episode off with the same question. And that question is, what is the dumbest thing you have done for wrestling?
Oh, dumbest thing. Jeez. You dumb stuff all the time. I mean,
A lot of wrestlers do.
yeah, I really try to avoid a lot of dumb stuff, but I tend to like get busted open randomly for some reason and stuff. Uh, let's just say doing a 36-hour day, because that 36-hour day had two matches in it, and probably 1,000 miles driven, where I drove to Phoenix. I did a match. I drove all the way back to San Diego, and that drive is about 5.5, 6 hours. As soon as I got back, I had to go right to a second event and do that match, and I totally messed it up because I was, very sleep deprived and just I don't know. I mean, I took care of my opponent, and we were safe and everything, but it was just a shit show. Let me tell you. So it's not that dumb, but I mean, to me, it was a rough day.
So would you say it taught you a lesson?
Not really, because I keep doing stuff like that all the time. I mean, it's whatever it takes to get to the booking.
Exactly, whatever it takes to get to the top. So let's go back to the very beginning. What first connected you to wrestling emotionally, and what do you think you were looking for at the time?
Well, that's quite a deep question you got starting off here. Well, when I was very young, like 5, 6 years old, my parents got us a TV. Like they got a new TV, so they took the TV that we kind of had as our family wanted to put it up in me and my brother's room. I had three brothers, and at that age, we're flipping through channels, trying to like see stuff we might like, around a TV at night, and kind of came upon Raw's War, and like I think the first segment I remember seeing is The Rock talking in front of that cage with the Raw's War side behind it, doing some promo, probably something towards the six man with Undertaker and Rikishi and everybody. But that was kind of like the first glimpse I got of it. And I'd see like little segments here and there because we were so young as kids that we never really knew what was going to be on. We'd just be flipping through channels and find it. But when I really, really fell in love and found pro wrestling, it was actually not until I was probably 11 or 12 years old. I had forgotten about watching it on TV when I was younger and just kind of moved into other things. And once again, it was like probably a Thursday or Friday night. My brothers were off at football practice. I was home alone, just kind of doing my own thing. Football wasn't for me. And flipping through channels again, and I saw John Cena standing on top of the SmackDown table doing his little rap gimmick. And I thought, wow, this is terrible. Because at the time, I hated rap music. I hated it. My older brother loved rap music, and me and him weren't getting along at the time. And I just, anything he liked, I disliked. So I hated it, and I flipped through the channels and kept going. But then, a couple months later, the same sort of thing happened. I flipped through the channels, and I think I saw Raw this time. And, it must have been a Monday night then. And I'm seeing the Cena character kind of evolved a little bit out of that into what he was when he came on Raw. And I'm like, oh, this is a little bit better. But the story that I found that really made me fall in love with pro wrestling was John Cena versus the Great Khali. And the reason being, I saw basically the story of my life in that segment, where Khali is this big giant, and he seems almost unbeatable, always taking Cena down. Every segment that they do on Raw, he is just taking him out, taking him out, taking him out. Even the Saturday night's main event right before they face for the title, he basically squashed Cena. And to me, that is a true underdog story, because I love the Rocky movies growing up, and my three brothers are all giants compared to me. I'm 6 feet, about 240, 250 pounds, and I am by far the smallest person in my family. You know,
Jeez.
I know my little brother, he's 5 years younger than me. He's about 6 inches taller and 80 pounds heavier. That is my little brother, and he's not even the biggest one. So I saw Kali as kind of like my brothers, and like I love my brothers, but like there's always family rivalries and stuff, growing up. And I see myself as Cena. It's like I can be the short, strong guy, kind of competing against these other guys. So when they had their story and Cena finally picked him up and slammed him off the crane or beat him at Judgment Day, it's just that's what really made me fall in love with pro wrestling, is seeing that story come to fruition. And then everything Cena kind of did from then on, like that was his best year in my opinion. Where he's going on to beat who was it, like Bobby Lashley, and almost beating Randy Orton before he got injured and stuff. Just all these great storylines that he had. So that's what made me fall in love with it, and I just saw myself in the stories.
So, at what point did it stop feeling like a fantasy and start becoming a possibility that it was something you could do?
I think it was right then, to be honest, because I had done martial arts from early on. Ever since I was 9 years old, I've been doing kind of martial arts. And uh, once I kind of saw that around 2007, that rivalry was, I really started getting into like working out. I would do every Monday night for Raw and every Friday night for SmackDown. I'd be in front of the TV watching it, and then I'd be doing like push-ups in between or sit-ups and a bunch of squats and just a bunch of like body weight movements to help build myself up and get stronger like the wrestlers that I'm seeing on TV, because I was thinking one day I want to do that. And if I'm going to be like them, I got to be big and strong. So I'd start, working out. And then when I got a little bit older, I'd start lifting weights and do the same sort of thing. But with martial arts, I was doing demonstrations, and I would be in competitions and things. And I would be motivated by what I saw on Raw and SmackDown to utilize that motivation to then put more effort into my martial arts at the time, because there wasn't any pro wrestling around where I grew up. It was probably 5-6 hours to the nearest pro wrestling school, and I wasn't even old enough anyway. So I was doing what I could in the area I had, which was I did powerlifting when I turned 16 and started doing that, lifting heavier weights, and I did martial arts since I was 9. So I was always working on those things in the hopes and dreams of eventually becoming a pro wrestler.
So, did you always believe you could make a name for yourself in wrestling?
Absolutely, no doubt.
And what kept you invested in the journey before the recognition came?
Oh, it's the dream, where you're fighting for the dream. Um, like I said, I love the Rocky movies, and Rocky was just a nobody. He was a nobody that was fighting to be a somebody, and that's something that I always wanted to do. It's like I'm kind of a relative nobody. I'm just like everybody else, but I'm fighting for something, and I want an accomplishment. And I have a lot of self discipline and a lot of focus. And when I set my sights on something, there's nothing getting in my way.
So, looking back, once you started fully training and getting into wrestling and finally making your debut, what do you think wrestling gave you during those early years?
Well, it gave me a place to put my focus and energy, because for so long I did martial arts for 20 years, and that was my main focus because that's all I had at the time. It was the only thing I could really pursue in the area I was at until I got enough money to move somewhere that actually had pro wrestling down here in San Diego. So it just gave me something to focus on, something to dream, something to strive for. I think everyone needs a goal, whether it's a big dream or something small. Everyone needs a goal to work towards. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels, sitting in place. So to me, it was something I'm still working towards, is, getting that WWE title. I think that's the dream that keeps a lot of us going.
So, did you ever get into wrestling training, or was it more just the martial arts training and eventually transitioning?
No, I never did actual like amateur wrestling in any format. When I was doing martial arts, it took up a lot of my time. It was my main focus, and I was pretty good at it. So to me, that was my way to like utilize my skills. I could have always done wrestling in high school or something, but it just didn't really seem like it was for me. I didn't really like the people that were on the team, and it didn't seem like it was a fit for me. So I more so liked the martial arts because I was already good at it. I already understood it, and that was kind of like the thing that I was doing on my way.
So once you did make your debut, was there anything that humbled you quickly in the process?
It's everything. I get humbled every week doing pro wrestling. This is not easy. Doesn't matter how much you accomplish, like it will tear you right back down. They say it's a roller coaster, and it is. It is a roller coaster every week, every month. It is a roller coaster all the time. You're always having highs and lows. I have that title sitting behind me, and even though I have it, like I still have plenty of lows and some highs. It's hard. So very early on, um, I broke my ribs. Within the first year, I tore my bicep. Had surgery on that. Had to be out for a couple of months. I was pushing really hard and really trying to make it very quickly, but it takes a long time to get good at this. So as hard as you're pushing, you have to keep pushing harder and harder, and it's just going to keep knocking you back once in a while.
So, what did the early independent grind teach you mentally?
uh, a lot of self discipline, a lot of hard work, and just sticking with it. Because there's going to be so many times that you just don't feel like going. You don't feel like going to training. You don't feel like getting up early and going to work so you can pay for all this stuff. It just, you try to do time management, but it takes up so much time. There's not really any time to manage. So a lot of it's just self-discipline. I already luckily had a lot of that from my martial arts, but there's just so much more to pro wrestling than anything else. Because like I said, I did powerlifting as well and everything, but pro wrestling is like you're an actor, which is hard. You're a bodybuilder, which is hard. You're an athlete, which is hard, and they're all combined into one. So like it's taken all those things and it's just piles on top.
So, we have Clark in the chat, and he's asking, what are some of your wrestling icks, whether it be from your opponents or just things during a match?
I can tell you it's more so in training that I get these icks than actually opponents, because people that have been my opponents, they've been in it for a little while, so they kind of already are past these icks. But like body odor is a big one. So many people, they let's say they go to the gym and then they go right from the gym to training. Like at least change your shirt for me. Come on. We're snuggling up doing headlocks and stuff. Please just change your shirt, wash it once in a while. This is not your PE class from high school where you wear the same T-shirt and then you put it in your locker and let it get all moldy and put it back on the next day and stuff. Like, change your shirts, wear deodorant, like, clean up for me, please. Just because you're not out in the public eye doesn't mean you can't be clean for the rest of us. I shave every day. Come on. So, that's the biggest one, to be honest.
Even in that sense, I'm constantly hearing wrestlers telling me, like, I wish people would understand how often y'all should clean your damn gear.
Yes. Yes. There is two sides to that, though, because sometimes when you have really nice gear, it's really hard to get cleaned, and you don't have a lot of time. If I'm doing 4 matches a weekend, and then I have work and everything, like you have to take it into a cleaners, and it's just sometimes you just don't have time for that. Especially if I'm sometimes wrestling on the weekdays, like Tuesday and Thursdays as well. It's like there's just no time for it to be clean and dry. If it's nice like TV gear, the more you wash it, the sooner it starts to wear down. You have to get new stuff. So I see both sides of that, but yes, definitely check it. Check it for me, please. Get a couple sets of gear. Let's get that stuff clean. Now, one of the biggest icks or surprises I actually had when I first started was how many wrestlers, whether in training or actually on shows, don't go to the gym. And I can't believe it. It is astonishing to me. I thought, because like before I ever got in pro wrestling, I was already doing workouts, like I said, when I was a kid. I was lifting weights from age at 16 and on, doing powerlifting stuff, because I knew I needed to be fit and strong if I wanted to be on TV like these guys. So I can't believe how many guys and girls just don't go to the gym regularly. You don't have to look like a jacked up bodybuilder, but you got to have some sort of strength, some base of strength behind you, some sort of athleticism, something that we can work with. But some people just are regular fans that have sat on the couch for 20 years. Then they decide they want to be a pro wrestler. and they come, and it's just you're just not ready. So please go to the gym often.
So, what is something that you believe people don't understand about trying to build momentum?
Hmm. Build momentum in pro wrestling. It is a constant grind. This is not easy. I never thought it was going to be easy, but it's hard to explain exactly how hard it is to actually become an independent pro wrestler. You know, even on TV, there's a whole different grind that I don't fully understand yet because I don't have a contract. But being an indie wrestler, it is not all fun and games. Like, sure, you could wrestle once a weekend and at your local bar and call it good, and that's not too hard. But like, if you really want to pursue this, if you really want to be on TV and get a contract and stuff, like it is a constant grind of doing shows multiple times per weekend, driving states, flying places, learning travel, having to have a regular job so you can pay for all that travel because you don't make a ton of money until you're on TV. It is a constant grind that people just don't understand until you really do it.
And even to add on top of that, I mean, I've been a fan of wrestling for over 20 years now, but with the evolution of technology now, having such a social media presence is a huge thing when it comes to being a wrestler nowadays, too. And that's even more of a time consumption when it comes to even your real life. So it sucks you away even more.
Absolutely. I used to post, 3 times a day, and now I simply just don't have the time. I have so much content sitting on my phone that I need to put out, and I don't have the time to do it. I need to get someone to manage my account or something because I have so much good stuff. It's so time consuming because it's not as simple as just, oh, I'll post that picture. Because when you post the picture, you have to have the right caption, you have to put the alternate media tag and write everything. Like you have to make it so it's high quality content. You have to be basically a full time social media person on top of everything you're already doing. So it's a whole nother job.
So, at any point towards your journey to become the SoCal heavyweight or SoCal Pro heavyweight champion, excuse me,
No problem.
were there ever moments where you felt like you were overlooked?
Oh yeah. I thought I should have become champion sooner, but then looking back, I know why it wasn't the right decision for me to have it at the time. And I'm glad it took me a year and a half, or as long as it really did, for me to become SoCal Pro Heavyweight Champion. Because that grind, the effort to really pursue to get there, it forced me to become better and better and better consistently until I achieved that goal. Because that was the first goal I set for myself when I started pro wrestling. As I was just training, not even before I started having my first match. Within the first month of me training, my goal was to have that championship. It's one of the most prestigious championships here in California. It's been around for almost 20 years now, and it's been held by some pretty big names, some people that are highly respected, not just in California but all over. People have been on AEW and all over the place. So to me, it means a lot that I am champion, and it I felt overlooked, but looking back, I was not overlooked. It was the right decision not to give it to me so early. It was good for me to have that grind to learn more on the journey.
So, speaking of the rise, was there a specific moment where you felt your career began to change?
A couple of times, actually. uh, Probably the first major switch was actually when I tore my bicep. That was November 2nd, 2023. Yeah, I tore my right bicep in training. I was just teaching suplexes to the new guys. We had a line of 7 guys. I did the first 6, no problem. Went to do the 7th guy. As I lifted him, he got scared, so he sat back and like pushed away from me, and like to save his life, so he didn't land on his head. I just kind of like had to extend my arm to help save him essentially, and my arm just popped, and I knew right away what it was. Uh, I was told I was going to be out for 6 months. 4 months until I could start training again, and then 6 months until I could actually have matches again. Um, I wasn't out that long. I was only out 9 weeks later. I had my match back, but that was the first change because it's like, hey, I really need to start taking a little more care of my body, not just going full throttle with everything. And when I came back, it was actually the cultivation of a year-long story I had with Eddie Islas. And that was my first big storyline. If I didn't come back after those 9 weeks, I would have missed out on that. And I don't know, I would have been just a regular person in the pond until the next opportunity came. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity, so I came back and had that match, and it transcended me so that when I came back pretty soon later, I started pursuing that SoCal Pro Heavyweight Championship. And that had a whole year-long story. And once that cultivated and I won it, that's a whole nother change. A year and a half in, I became champion, and now I was leading the pack. And then just a couple months after that, I had a whole nother change where I actually kind of evolved my character a little bit from the ass-kicking machine into the peak of professional wrestling, the one that everyone kind of is looking up to as the example. When I'm a heel, I'm looking down at everybody. When I'm a face, everyone's looking up to me as the person to follow behind. And along that journey, in June of last year, I retired Judiz, who's one of the people that held that title, and he's gone far and wide. But he was moving away and had some other life things going on. So he, out of everyone there was in Southern California, he chose me as his opponent to retire with. So that was another big change that helped transcend me forward. It just, everything's kind of been a little staircase working my way up.
So, going back to winning the SoCal Pro Heavyweight Champion, what did winning that mean to you emotionally? And did that feel validating to you, or do you feel it created more pressure for you at the time?
I think validation is the right word for it because I had put so much effort and work into not just SoCal Pro, but all of my wrestling for so long just to acquire that. Like that, like I said, that was my goal. So I felt very validated once I finally got it. Like I said, I thought I should have won it months before, but uh, just because all the work and stuff I was putting in. But I'm glad that it took me a little bit longer because then there was just more work I had to put in and more things for people to follow along with that actually got me to where I could, lead the pack. So it felt very validating, but I wouldn't say there was a weight that was put on me because I've always kind of wanted to be a leader. I like being a leader. I like kind of leading the pack and helping to push people forward, motivate people to do great things. That's kind of my purpose behind doing all this. I want to be the motivation to everyone else, whether they're wrestlers or fans. I want to motivate them to do things just like the Rocky movies motivated me, or John Cena's story in pro wrestling motivated me to do, all those push-ups, all those years of lifting weights. I want to motivate people to do cool stuff in their daily life. So it validated me, but I didn't feel the weight. I felt, or even like pressure. I don't feel a lot of pressure. I just felt accomplished and happy to kind of lead the pack.
Alrighty. So, what changed for you mentally once you knew people started seeing you differently, especially as a champion?
Uh, it was just more, uh, you put a little more thought into things, because you are representing this company, this title, and a lot of what independent pro wrestling is. So it just takes a little bit more of a creative thought process when you're doing stuff. You can't go out there and just um, have a random match. Like the matches, they need to stand out because most of the time you're the main event. When you got the title, you're the main event. You're the reason that people are wanting to come to these shows to come back. So it just makes you put more effort and thought into things and want to raise everything up, want everything to kind of transcend forward. So you're always pushing for more.
And what would you say would be the hardest part about carrying that responsibility?
It's the time it takes, because You, like I said, when you're a champion, you are the example for everybody. And being kind of that, you can't just fade into the background. You're at the forefront at all times. So people are always watching, people are always seeing what you're doing. You're on every show, and it just takes up a lot of the time that, I mean, people that don't have the title, they could just sit at home sometimes. I don't feel like going to that show. Well, I don't have that luxury. And then again, I like that. I like being at all the shows. I like being the example for everyone to follow. But it is difficult to, always be there, always be pushing for more.
So, looking back to the beginning of your career from now, how do you handle expectations compared to when you first started?
You got a lot of deep questions on here.
I do. I try to just remind people that you guys are normal human beings that are chasing a dream.
We really are. That's one of the biggest things that I realize when I go to, be an extra at Raw or SmackDown or AEW and TNA and stuff. Is these are all just regular ass people with a dream that tried, and that's all it is. They wanted to be this, and they tried really hard, and they got it. They're still trying hard. Like even Roman Reigns, guy damn near at the top. He's still always pushing for more. He's still pursuing a higher dream. He maybe accomplished the first goal he set and the second and third, but there's always another goal. There's always something else that we're shooting for. So there's never a stop. I'm sorry, I forgot what your question actually was. I was just going on that tangent.
No, no worries. How do you handle the expectations now compared to when you first started?
Uh, I feel like I've always tried to handle things pretty much the same. I had a lot of self discipline coming from martial arts, um, and I've always shown up to training. We have training 2, 3 times a week, and I don't miss unless I'm booked somewhere or I have some other family thing going on. I'm always at every show that I can be. I'm still there helping to set up. I'm trying to lead by example for everyone, not just the newcomers, but anyone that's coming in. So I've always tried to stay the same, treat everyone with respect, treat everyone the same. Um, as far as I know, I can walk into any and every locker room that there is and shake hands with everybody and have no issues. So I've always uh, liked to treat everyone the same. Just respect and honor and lead by example.
So, what would you say is harder, chasing success or maintaining it?
Ooh. Uh, it's probably chasing it, to be honest, because once you've gotten a little bit of success, there's a little bit more trust put in you. You've been champion once, then it's a little easier to get a championship somewhere else because, like, oh, he's already been champion. We've seen what he can do as champion. Maybe we'll let him take this one too, or even if you have a title and you've held it, I've held it for over a year now, you know, as long as you're still on top, leading the pack, as long as you're pushing for more, it's a little bit easier. You have that validation behind you. Whereas early on, even if you are incredible, like not everyone always sees it. It takes time for people to get behind you. But once you actually have some success and people are behind you, it's a little easier, in my opinion, to maintain that.
What is something that people don't realize about being a champion?
Uh, it, I don't know if it's something that people don't realize, but you have to remember to always have your professionalism. You're always a professional. Uh, I mean, we are professionals first. That's why it's called professional wrestling. And sometimes people can forget that, when they're just doing this for fun instead of like really pushing for something more. Um, but I pride myself on trying to be as professional as possible at all times. And especially as champion, it's a good reminder for everyone that you kind of have to, you can't take it for granted. You know, Sometimes I'll show up to, a place dressed in a suit, trying to be as professional as possible, trying to lead by example. And really, do I need to show up in a suit to the downtown bar that we're going to go wrestle at? No, I really don't need to. I mean, it is a little bit part of like my character and who I am and kind of how my parents raised me. But I choose to do those hard things. I think that's what you have to do sometimes. Just choose to do the hard stuff, whether you feel like it or not.
So let's get a little more into the moments that mattered to you. What is a match that changed your confidence?
Uh, Probably the first one that really changed it was the match that I was talking about a little earlier with Eddie Eastloss. The first time I had that big change where uh, it was, we called it a Chicano street fight. It was in January 2024, right after it was the match that I came back from my torn bicep. And I really wasn't sure how everything was going. Before that, I was kind of a nobody. I was just my first year in wrestling, and I was kind of like coasting and doing what I was told and stuff. But once we had that match, and I had a lot of people come up to me and say like, "Wow, that was really something. That was a story you guys really told, and it really paid off well." That was the first one that really kind of jacked up my confidence. Of like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. I'm not just a regular wrestler out here. I can take lead. And then about 6-7 months later, I had a last man standing match with the Mighty Tortuga. He was the champion at the time for that title in the main event, and that was another one that really helped give me a big confidence boost because I had, again, had a lot of people come up and say like that was the match that we needed to see. That was the match that we've been needing here for a while, and that made me feel pretty good because we put a lot of effort into it. It was cultivation of another story. And then after that, probably the biggest one. It wasn't actually when I won the title. It was a couple months later when I had that retirement match with Judiz. He was the standard bearer. He's the guy that everyone looked up to. He was the top performer probably in all of California that everyone was looking up to, and still at his peak. He was not retiring because he was out of shape. He just had life events happen to him. He was still at the peak of his performance, and he chose me again to be the person that retired him. And that was a hard day at the office because, I loved Judiz and I didn't want him to go away, but I just happened to be the person he chose to do it. So I did my job, but that one gave me another confidence boost of like, I can lead this pack.
I'd say those three matches also just answered my next three questions as well. So I guess we can
Great.
move along. What is something a difficult match has taught you?
Uh, well, it might be a little bit corny to say, but never give up. Because there's a couple of times that it's not even about the wins or losses. It's about sometimes you just have rough days at the office, and sometimes you also don't feel like doing the match you're going to do and don't feel like being there. And again, it's not about wins or losses. It's just about this is hard. It's hard to stick with. It's hard to carry that weight and keep pushing for more and more and more all the time. But it's just never give up. And I hate to be the corny guy that says seen his line, but like he said it because that's the thing that's behind a lot of us. That's why so many of us connected with it. Is never give up is really it.
And as a Massachusetts girl, I can appreciate dropping John Cena's line on here. I'll accept
Oh,
it.
yeah.
So when the going gets rough, what are some things that motivate you when things do get hard?
Well, the Rocky movies, first of all.
Hell yeah.
Sometimes I'll actually go back and watch. You remember those DVDs that they'd have of different wrestlers like The Edge, John Cena,
Yeah.
Batista, like DVDs.
Like
Sometimes
the
I'll go
best
back.
ofs.
Yeah, the best stuff. Sometimes I go back and like just watch those because those came out when I was growing up as a teenager and really loving pro wrestling. I loved the storylines and everything, especially during the Ruthless Aggression era. So going back and like seeing the stuff that like right now Pokemon's really big again, right? Because a lot of people grew up with Pokemon and like it was the first anime that they got into and they love Pokemon. Yeah, yeah. So like it's I think it's the same
Guilty.
for things. Like we always are trying to go back to remember the good times. Well, not that now is the bad times, but sometimes you just need a little pick me up. So you go back and watch the stuff that made you fall in love with pro wrestling. And I'll even do that sometimes now with myself because like not that now again is the bad times, but early in pro wrestling it was a lot of fun. It's still fun now, but like it was a different kind of fun when you are just starting out. That first year of matches, I had terrible matches my first year. I think everyone can't look back on themselves in the first year they did pro wrestling compared to where they are now. But like there was good times in there, so I might go back and watch one of my own matches, and maybe I'll make fun of the stuff that I did and why did I do that. But like just remembering the struggles it took to get there, it provides good memories and it's a nice pick me up.
What is something that keeps you grounded outside of wrestling?
Oh, my fiance, you know, I wouldn't be able to do any of this without her. I wouldn't have moved to San Diego if it wasn't for her having to come down here to do schooling. So I don't even know if I'd start pro wrestling. I wouldn't be able to afford to do all this, by myself. So I'm glad that she's here with me and be able to we take care of each other to be able to pursue this. I wouldn't have any video content on my first year in pro wrestling because I mean she's always the one that shows up and like sits up in the stands, records it for me. Now we have live streams that are going on almost all the shows that I do, so luckily we have that. But a lot of early on success that I had was very much because of her. So she's the one that keeps me grounded and tells me when I do dumb stuff or like always have her look back at my content and she'd be like, yeah, that's dumb. Don't post that. So like she really helps me out.
So, how do you separate your identity outside of wrestling from your accomplishments in wrestling?
I really don't. I'm me. Matthias is my real name. I'm a lot of people say they're them turned up to 11 or 12 or whatever. I don't have that much of I don't know what to say, I don't want to say I don't have charisma, but I don't have that style of like the Rock charisma where I'm above and beyond. But a lot of what I do in pro wrestling is very much how I think and feel. You know, so it's really just me turned up a little bit. You know, I don't really separate a lot. I still tell people in my daily life that I'm a pro wrestler. Hey, come check out the show. Because I'm more of a pro wrestler than I am a personal trainer, which is my other real job.
What is something that people misunderstand about you?
Mm, well, you would think that people know this, but sometimes I'm just being a heel. Whether it's a comment I make on social media or something I say, whether it's in a promo or whatever. Like, I love everybody. I want everyone to succeed. There's not a single person I don't want to surpass me and move on because everyone thinks that there's a lot of competition here on the indies, and there's really not. There's so many shows, so much wrestling, and there's not even that much competition getting to the bigger companies. I want every single one of my friends to be hired and there because then I can hang out with them when we're on TV. And I don't know if everyone realizes that, but I want every single person, every company to succeed. So uh, forgive me for the things I say when I'm a heel.
What is something that wrestling has forced you to learn about yourself?
Ooh, man. I don't even know if I have answers to all these deep questions. Forced me to learn about myself. I mean, I kind of already knew this, but I'm a pretty tough son of a bitch. you know, I already kind of knew that from martial arts and powerlifting, but like it continues on. It's
I feel like it's a different kind of pain.
it very much is because I thought I was gonna know what it was like to be a pro wrestler before I did it, because I'd taken slams and stuff from martial art demonstrations, and I'd lifted really heavy weights that were gonna crush me, and it is very much a different kind of pain. And it's a constant pain. You're it's not just like muscle soreness you get from the gym. It's like bone rattling pain, and it you're always hurting. Something's always hurting.
And now that you've achieved one of your goals in wrestling, what does success look like to you now?
Well, when I aim for a goal, I never shoot for what's easy. I always go for the hard things in life. I always say I shoot for the tallest peak and the highest tower on that tallest peak for my goals. So my goal is WWE champion. My first goal was become SoCal Pro Heavyweight champion. I accomplished that. Next one, WWE champion. Now, would I become AEW champion? Love to. TNA champion? Yeah. Anywhere. I'm happy to be hired anywhere they give me a contract. But I think the ultimate goal is everyone's always looking to that top spot. And to me, that's the top spot.
So, outside of championships, what are you chasing right now?
Uh, the thing I really want to do with pro wrestling is I want to motivate a lot of people. You know, I want to, like I said earlier, motivate them to do cool shit. Whatever it is in their life they want to do, even if it's just do cool stuff with your family, and maybe it's not anything to do with weights or wrestling or anything. Maybe, I don't know, you have some sort of goal. I want to be the motivation behind what people do. So that's all I'm really pursuing is being motivational, inspirational with people.
What part of yourself are you still trying to sharpen as a wrestler?
Uh, it's definitely comes down to the overall presentation of my character. It's like I know who I am, but it's hard for me to display to the world who I am. I'm a very clean cut individual. It's the way I've always liked to be. I know that a lot of pro wrestlers like to have like different color hair, different like face paint and stuff, and it's really just not for me. It's not the style that I like. I've always liked a more simple look, and when you are very simple like that, it's hard to get people to really understand who you are and what you are as a character or as a person. You know, I think some people see it after they see me do some work for a month or two, or maybe even the first match. But it's not always easy to portray right off the bat.
So, what kind of wrestler do you ultimately want to become?
I think that's always a moving target. Um, I knew that I never wanted to be like a goofy wrestler. Now, do I mind telling some jokes and doing stuff, like the R-Truth skits and all that? Sure, I don't mind doing that. And, Kurt Angle did it and he was still a badass. But I like to portray like the big power moves, like, the Batista, the Goldbergs, the Brock Lesnar's, the guys that did the big strength things, because that's what was cool to me. It's like the high impact moves. So I'd like to portray that as a wrestler, because that's stuff that motivated me to do cool stuff.
So, when the time is said and done and it's time to hang up the boots, what do you want fans to remember about Matthias?
Uh, that I was inspirational to them. I was a good guy that led by example and maybe help them along their journey, whatever their journey is. That I help them. I like helping people.
Well, that is all the wrestling questions I have for you, but I do like to add a little bit of personality questions so we can get to know you a little bit more. So, with that being said, you are stuck on a car trip to your next booking, but you are only allowed to listen to 5 bands or artists along the way. Who are you listening to?
Well, I would say none, to be honest, because a lot of times I actually don't listen to anything. Crazy enough, because a lot of times, especially on long car rides, I'm just in my thoughts. I'm not really listening to music. I'm just thinking of like, just different aspects of pro wrestling, and not just for me, for everyone. Like I said, I want everyone to succeed. So I might be thinking of people I'm training, helping them out, and be like, oh, I have this idea, and pull over and send them something like, oh, I had this idea for you. So sometimes, a lot of times I'll think, listen to nothing. But if I had to choose some bands or artists, let's say Saliva, since they do my theme song, um, we'll do Eminem. I like me some little bit of rap music. Uh, Man, I don't have a lot of bands. I have very specific songs that I'll listen to. Um, let's say Queen, just because they sing "Eye of the Tiger" and stuff. The rocky music, that's cool. Uh, hmm, I don't know, maybe some 50 Cent and Jim Johnston, my guy, because he makes a lot of WWE themes. Let's go with that one.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess you don't have to listen to music on the road, but at some point you do have to eat. But a fast food place of your choice is offering you the Mathias value meal. What fast food joint are you choosing and what comes in the meal?
Panda Express, white rice, teriyaki chicken, no sauce.
Ooh. Any drink? You gotta
No,
get
the only things I drink are water and coffee,
all right.
and never out of a vending machine or dispenser like they have.
All right. If you had to pick a choice of bottled water, what type of bottled water do you pick?
Bottled water. The cheapest one that's not Arrowhead. I hate Arrowhead, but anything other than that that's cheap, yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, like tap water? Are you cool with tap water?
Sometimes, I mean, the tap water here in San Diego is really not fantastic. But back at home where I used to live up in Northern California, it was fantastic. So it really just depends. Like if I'm in the city, it's probably not the right choice. But if I'm out in the country, yeah, fine with me.
All right. If a fan were to show up with a random gift for you at a show, what is something that they could bring you that would instantly make you happy?
Coffee.
Coffee?
Well, yeah, like I said, like there's so much travel and long days and stuff. Like, so I just need coffee in my life to. I mean, sleep's not required, but coffee is. So I mean that's kind of the go-to. I mean, you can always bring me like a Quest protein bar or something, but yeah, usually I'm pretty set on food, but coffee, that's one that kind of eludes me sometimes.
All right. And last one. What is something people would never expect you to be really good at outside of wrestling?
I don't tell a ton of people about my martial arts, but I'm really good at martial arts. Like I'm really good. I mean, honestly, if I wasn't doing pro wrestling, I would have owned a school and you know maybe even been famous in movies for doing martial arts like John Claude Van Damme. It's so I'm pretty good at those using weapons and stuff, whether it's staff or nunchucks, you might call them, or swords and stuff. Like I'm pretty good at that kind of stuff.
As you say, nunchucks, as we may call them. Is there another name for nunchucks?
Yeah, the Korean name's Julbong. It means jointed
Oh,
stick. So I did Korean martial arts. Just like a staff, it's not called staff, it's called a bong. Some people call it a bow staff. I don't know what a bow staff is, to be honest. I don't know why they call it a bow staff. Um,
okay.
yeah. A lot of times in America, we use like the Japanese terms for things. And I believe nunchucks is either Japanese or Okinawa or something.
Now, is there a type of martial arts that you specialized in, or one that's like your favorite?
Yeah, I started off doing Taekwondo when I was 9 years old. But after 2 years, the owner died of brain cancer. I know, terrible and tragic, and I really love the guy because he was my first trainer. But then after that, my dad drove me around to all the different schools, that were in our area, and I found one that had someone there that I knew, one of my friends from school, and it's called Kuksawan, and that's the one that I did for almost 20 years. It's a traditional Korean martial art, so Taekwondo is also Korean, And Taekwondo focused very much on like kicks and striking, whereas Kuksuwan was a little bit more comprehensive. Of course, we did kicks and striking, and we also did joint locks and grappling and takedowns and falling and weapons, and we had there were so many more aspects to it than what we were doing in Taekwondo early on. So that's the one that I know the most about. That's the one I've pursued and did for a really long time.
All right. So we have reached the last segment of my podcast that I like to call promo roulette. All right. So we talked a little bit about TV shows and characters before the show started, and I'm going to keep it super basic. The person that I'm choosing for your character for this promo challenge is going to be Plankton from SpongeBob.
Like, I don't even know if I remember what Plankton does. I know
He's
he's
the little
tiny.
tiny guy that tries to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula. The chum bucket guy
Oh man.
who
So I
has
assume
Karen's
I'm not.
computer as his wife.
I assume I'm not Plankton. I'm doing
You're
one
shooting a
against Plankton.
promo on Plankton.
Got it. Okay, just making sure I didn't have to be like a little Plankton guy over here.
Nope, you're shooting a promo on Plankton.
Okay. Anytime.
Yep, whenever you are ready, however long you want it to be, whatever you want to say.
All right, Plankton. Look at it. This Saturday, you and I, we're going to meet up at the 66ers game. Kelly's going to be watching. She wants to see what you can do against the SoCal Pro Heavyweight Champion. The 6 foot, 254 pound ass kicking machine. The man that's simply built better. And you know what? I don't think she's gonna be very impressed with what you can do, because I'm gonna chew you up and spit you out like a damn whale. That's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And thank you so much for joining us this week. For those of you that are in the area, now would be the time to let us know where we can see you next. And if you are not in our area, where can we find you on social media?
Well, first, you can find me on all social medias. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikToks, the Tweeters, the YouTubes, at Mathias Wrestles. It's on my name tag right there on screen. Mathias Wrestles on everything. They also all have a link to all my social medias on there. And places I'm wrestling, like I said, the 66ers game, actually up in San Bernardino with Kelly. One of the first female talents I actually saw when I got into wrestling. That's up at the 66ers game in San Bernardino this Saturday the 9th. Then I'll be at TNA up in Sacramento for 3 days this coming week. I believe that's the 13th and 14th, maybe 14th and 15th, whatever Thursday and Friday is of next week. As soon as I fly back, I get off the plane, go straight to SoCal Pro Wrestling up in the Vista Boys and Girls Club. And that's our main location where we have the stage and lights and everything from where I'm going to be defending that SoCal Pro Heavyweight Championship against CJ Tino, one of the top talents down here in San Diego. So if you're in the area, come check us out. And always follow me at Mathias Wrestles, and you'll see all the stuff I'm going to be doing.
Well, thank you again so much for joining us. And next week, we will be back with 2 brand new episodes. The space station is going out west yet again, and we will be joined by Barack Hall at 1 p.m. and MM3 Malcolm Monroe III at 7 p.m. So join us next week with those 2. And thank you, everybody at home, for joining us. And thank you again to Mathias for joining us this week. But catch us back here next week with 2 brand new episodes.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.